Hello, everybody. Welcome to Build a Banging Logline in 10 minutes. I am so excited to welcome you all here. We have an amazing group of coaches and some alumni from my program and some new writers who are going to be getting some insights from professionals on their story concepts. I'm so excited to be here. I love the subject matter. I love helping writers, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We'll just give you an overview of how this workshop's going to run. I'm going to introduce the coaches really quickly. We're going to talk about really basic things about log lines, how they're constructed, what the purposes are, and so that you guys have a sense of where we're going when we do the workshops. Then we're going to break out into rooms. People who are watching this are going to be watching me work with a couple writers, and that's going to be about 35 minutes or so. We're going to really go deep into showing people how to think conceptually about stories at a really high level. And then not only that, we're going to have a contest. So we're going to rate each of these log lines and stories that we're developing, and then we're going to come back together as a group, and we're going to just rate all of them, and the one that we feel like is the best as a group is going to get $300. So, and then we're also going to talk about any sort of opportunities that you guys have to work with us in this program, or just in general talk about how coaching can make a massive difference on you in your life. And so we have a program. There's lots of other programs out there, but we'll show you some opportunities to really give yourself an unfair advantage in a business that's very competitive. 30-second introduction for my coaches. Mike, Jann, you go first.
Hi, I'm a comedy writer. I wrote for Leno for 23 years, Jimmy Fallon for another year. I'm hilarious, if you haven't noticed. I'm a screenwriter. My wife and I write screenplays. We love doing it. I love teaching. I teach at UCLA Extension, and now we moved to Austin. I taught last semester at University of Texas. And I'm thrilled with getting to share with you the stuff that I know. I know a couple things.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Mike and I met at UCLA Extension. There was like an orientation meeting, and it was great. I liked him from the beginning. He was very funny right from the beginning. So who would have thought? Howard March, tell us about you.
Okay, I'm Howard March. I started in sitcoms. I wrote for the sitcom Coach. I adapted my own feature spec script, romantic comedy for ABC Family. That was called My Fake Fiance, and it was the most successful original movie in ABC Family history and led to their hit sitcom Melissa and Joey. I've written features which have gone through the development process at a bunch of different companies. For the past 10 years, I've been a senior story producer on the Bachelor franchise, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and Bachelor in Paradise. But during that whole time, I've always done a lot of script consulting. And about 4 years ago, I started teaching script writing workshops. And I really find working with other writers to be even more gratifying than my day job. And so that's what I love to do now. I love to sit in a room with talented people and talk about story. That's my idea of a good time.
Awesome. Thank you, Howard. Yeah, I met Howard through a program, a nonprofit organization that was helping them set up a mentorship program. He was a real standout mentor in that program, and I hit it off. And I'm thrilled that you're here with us, Howard. Good to see you, man.
Thanks, Brooks.
Jordan Morris, give us the scoop on you, my friend.
Came out of theater, transitioned into film when I got invited to act in a really awful, terrible action adventure movie, which is unwatchable, but was a great time. And then the local university asked me if I'd be interested in teaching their screenwriting course because nobody wanted anything to do with it. And I fell in love with it, and I've been focused on that since 2013. So I still write and produce and sometimes co-direct smaller docs and unscripted projects, but I did a little bit of TV development there for a little while as well. I tend to work with new and newish writers and love the process of coaching and mentoring for all the same reasons that our other coaches there mentioned. It's super rewarding.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. Jordan is amazing. He actually went through my program and was just I just love him. He's so good, so insightful, and he picked up my system so well that when I was writing my book, I was like, hey, will you help me do this? So he literally helped me write my book on my own system. His mind goes deep, and it's just amazing. So Jordan, thank you for being here. I'm so excited. What I want to do first is talk about the differences between a sales log line and a development log line. So Jordan, why don't you jump in on that?
Sure. Typically, a logline is used to promote your work and specifically to get people interested enough to read the script. So that's what a logline is typically used for. But during the development phase, when you're just starting out and deciding what you're going to write about, you can create a logline that is for your purposes, like just for you, which sometimes I refer to as a transparent logline because it may have details in it that, the one that you use to pitch and promote won't. Like you may, for instance, give away the ending in a transparent logline. But one is for development purposes, which becomes kind of your creative lighthouse as you go through the process. So you kind of can keep an eye on what it is that you're writing about. And the other one is specifically for, like I say, promotion, sales, and to generate interest in your script and to try to get people to read it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great succinct definition of those two. I think most of the people here are working on a development logline for a new story they haven't yet written or they're partly the way through. But raise your hand if you're actually working on, I know at least one is working on the sales logline. So raise your hand if you're working on a sales logline. Just wave so we have a sense of it. Yeah, so I thought Steve, okay, maybe Heather, Brendan, okay, good. And everybody else is working on development loglines, right? So really different because the development logline doesn't need to be as polished, but needs to be mechanically sound. The sales one is all song and dance. I mean, literally, you can do whatever you want just to intrigue them to read the script. Jordan, thank you. Okay, Howard, let's. When I think about log lines, at some point I was like, oh, sometimes I've written so many scripts at this point, and like, what was this script about? I was like, geez, I don't remember. And then I go back to, well, who's the hero? What was the goal? What was the conflict? And then I'm in it. It's a really easy way it's a shorthand way to pitch. So that's kind of the bedrock. But in our conversation a couple of days ago, Howard, you also were talking about inciting incident, which is really, I think, probably involved in every logline I've also wrote. So can you talk about a little bit about how inciting incident is pretty much also an important part of a logline?
Yeah, I think that very often the inciting incident can be used in your logline. The inciting incident, of course, is the event in your story that upsets the status quo and puts your characters into action. So the inciting incident can fit very easily into your logline. You can think about the structure of when such and such happens, when inciting incident, the character has to struggle against mounting obstacles, your conflict, in order to achieve the goal, right? So I tried to simulate what we're going to be doing here today last night for myself. And so I wrote some log lines for classic movies. I wrote my own first, then I went on IMDb to see what they had. And then I saw whether their logline gave me any ideas to rewrite my logline, and they always did. But but my final logline was I always liked better than the IMDb. So anyway, this was the logline, IMDb's logline for The Wizard of Oz, which is: after a twister transports a lonely Kansas farm girl to a magical land, she sets out on a dangerous journey to find a wizard with the power to send her home. So
that was the IMDb logline?
That was the IMDb, and it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that's actually not bad. Usually the ones I see there are not good at all. Yeah.
Right. This one I like because it did include the inciting incident. So after a twister transports a lonely Kansas farm girl. I wouldn't call Dorothy lonely. I would say maybe troubled, something like that. Yeah. But anyway, so you get the gist. It's like it can be very helpful, and it fits very nicely into your description of your character, your goal, and your conflict.
Yeah, I love that example. That's really good. And because if you just went with hero, goal, conflict, she needs to get home. She's the hero, Dorothy. She needs to get home. And then the conflict is she's in this weird place. But it's kind of like, well, how did she get there, right? It's really pretty essential to the story concept. So I love that. I think it's really smart. Thank you, Howard. All right, Mike, Jann, let's have you share your thoughts about the right hero for the right job, because in our discussion offline and many discussions we've had, but also in particular this in the last week, you spoke to this idea of going from vice to virtue and also irony. So tell me about your thoughts on that in terms of story concept construction.
Well, first of all, it's funny you said something about it being the right hero for the mission. I think it's the wrong hero for the mission.
That's
much
better,
more. I think that the comedy writer in me instantly looks for and appreciates when I see it, when you've got the exact wrong person trying to do this difficult task, okay? So like in How to Train Your Dragon, it really helps that if the task is to train a dragon, that you have a meek, nervous kid who is sort of bad at everything, right? If it was The Rock training a dragon, that's not very interesting, but his name is Hiccup, I think. And that's great. I always talk about Wedding Crashers, because to me it's just so perfect, is these guys meet, it's Owen and Vince, they each meet the girl of their dreams, the love of their life, but they do it while they're wearing a false identity at a wedding, which is what they do. They go to weddings with a false identity to get laid, pick up girls. And so for these guys, it's hard to do the right thing. They are major league liars, major league womanizers. That's way more interesting than if a nice guy met Rachel McAdams at a wedding. So the irony is that you always want you want to start way back. I talk about shooting a rubber band at somebody. It's how far back you pull the rubber band. That's how far it goes. So you want someone who could never accomplish this thing. You know, if the challenge is to be humble and work as a team, look at Mr. Incredible. What a pompous jerk he is. You know, that it's going to be hard for him to be a good teammate, a good husband, etc. So that's the one thing. And the other thing, real quick, I don't want to talk too long, is Brooke mentioned my favorite screenwriting thing in the world is it's called the moral premise. That is an idea by Stan Williams, if you want to remember a name. And it's that every movie is about a vice and a virtue in a boxing match, right? So in Wedding Crashers, every scene is between a liar and a truth teller. The whole movie is about dishonesty versus being genuine, okay? And then you go to The Incredibles, every scene in the movie is going to be about a pompous person arguing with a humble person, and so on and so on. So the thing that they're going to have to do is the thing you want to write about. Vices are interesting and they're fun, but you're really writing about a virtue. You're saying, look, if you want true love, you're going to have to be honest. The whole movie's about being honest. And the best way to talk about being honest is to bring in somebody who just can't do it. So that's what I'm going to want to see in your log line. Why that guy doing that job?
Awesome. It's great. So does anybody have any general questions that would actually might be something that anybody in the group is thinking about?
What if there's more than one? Or should you just pick one, vice to virtue?
I think it's about one.
About one.
A good movie is about one thing. It's about this vice. It has its upside. They get laid a lot, but it can't get in the end zone. The vice has its upside, but only the virtue can win. Only the virtue can get into the end zone. That's what every movie you've ever loved has.
Thank you.
Great question. Great answer. Jordan or Howard, you see that differently at all or have anything to add?
No, I wrote down vice and virtue. I'm taking notes. I think it's great. I mean, the other way that sort of I look at it, and I think actually this comes from Robert McKee, is that, in your movie, there is a value that is being discussed and also being challenged. So whether it's love or justice or truth, and then a good way, and then your message of your movie is going to be delivered by your ending, by your crisis and climactic action and your resolution. You're going to tell the audience, what you think about the value.
Yeah.
And a good way to think about that is, or a good way of stating the theme of your movie, the message of your movie, is how is the value brought into the world? So, so as Michael was just talking about, love is brought into the world through honesty, that sort of thing. So, and every scene is going to be about, once you know what the message of your movie is, then every scene of your movie is going to somehow inform that message, is going to serve the purpose of delivering that message in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I wasn't like zoning out when I was actually assigning the rooms. Sorry about that. Any great question. I love that. It's really good. Any other thoughts about that topic or anything else that the whole community might sort of be interested in before we get into specifics? Oh, Steve, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So kind of building on Susie's question, I have an anthology, and so I'm not really sure how to do that in a specific way, because there's so many, like Susie was saying, I've got so many different characters in completely different scenarios.
Yep. So suppose you take something like Love Actually, right? Which is several different vignettes happening, but they're all about the same thing. They're all about, do you have the courage to tell someone that you love them, right? If one of them was about someone's broke and they're trying to raise money to fix their car, it would not fit in. It's just, that's a different thing. If somebody was robbing a bank, it wouldn't fit in. They're all about, say it, tell them you love them while you can, because you might not have time otherwise. It's about courage, right? I'm just picking that one movie. If you watch it, you see it's the same message in every one of the vignettes. If I'm correct that that's an anthology that you were referring to.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I mean, that's valid. That's valid right there, I think, in this case.
What Howard said was about the, at the ending, you're showing, right? You're showing that how it works. Well, the way you get the I love yous is by being honest and genuine and sincere. The final scene of Wedding Crashers is Owen Wilson slowly walks down the aisle of a church and professes his love to a woman in front of God and family. I mean, that's something he was never going to do. And he was also never going to get in the end zone unless he adopted that virtue. So it's preachy if you say it. It's not preachy if you show it. If you show it, everybody wipes their eyes and tells their friends to go see it.
Awesome. The last thing I'll say is each coach is going to run the room in their own style, in their own way, trying to serve you guys the best you can, the best they can. My general encouragement is, as long as the coach is good with it, is like throw variations. Like somebody's going to say, this is my story idea, and they're going to maybe type some stuff. Go in there, type variations for them. When we write other people's story ideas, it's great practice for us because we're not emotionally tied to it. And then we just try different things. And you guys are the writers in charge of your own process. You don't have to take any of those ideas. All up to you and your vision in service of how you want to do it. But definitely jump in and mess around, because as you get your reps in, as you just think about story over and over and over, and from this, you'll get to a point where writing a logline is like a word puzzle. It's like really fun to do. You're like, let me figure that out. Blah, 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 All right, let's do it. I am going to open the rooms, and then there were 5. Looks like it worked out. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Really good. Really good to see all you guys. Paul, you want to go first?
Why, sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
So Dallas and Murphy, you guys wave. They are both alumnus of my group. Dallas has been through my actual Answer the Call group. She's a part of my Hero's Journey to Wealth group. She's amazing. She wrote a spectacular script. She's collaborating with me on another project. She's awesome. She's really great. So I'm really happy that she's here with us today. Murphy is a part of one of my other programs, actually two other programs. Unleash Your Superpower, which is about getting your script into the right hands in Hollywood. He's also a leader in the Hero's Journey to Wealth program, and he helps me with all sorts of things in the program in general. So I am really happy that Murphy's here as well. So they're here mostly in support. So we'll work with Paul first, and then we'll work with Susie.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'd start with the one that I really want to do the most work on.
Yeah, put in the Google
Okay.
Doc, and that way everybody can be literally on the same page and messing around and showing you variations from our own minds. Because what happens is, guys, when we start thinking about log lines, the value is breaking down the elements. And the idea with the Studio Binders logline generator, and if anybody's watching this recording and like, what is he talking about? Just reach out to me or get my book. It's a link in the book, or just search. Studio Binder is a wonderful company. They give this away for free. It's just a good way to get you thinking in terms of, you want to think modularly about your story. So your hero as a choice, your goal as a choice, your conflict as a choice. And as we talked about before, your inciting incident as a choice. And why you want to isolate that is because the other parts might be rocking, but then you want to be able to upgrade or scale up or scale down each of the choices. So for example, if we're talking about a hero, like Mike's example about how to slay your dragon, if you had a hero or how to train your dragon, if you had somebody who was meek or somebody who was powerful, you want to be able to easily switch between those things. So think about your story in a modular ways is a way to have more control in order to articulate your deepest vision. Does that make sense? All right. All right. Okay. After a botched spell strands her without magic in small town New Jersey. So that's inciting incident, right? It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
After a botched spell strands her without magic in small town New Jersey, a novice witch from a fantasy realm must now find a lost enchanted scepter that can restore her powers and get her home. Okay. After a botched spell strands her without magic in a small town New Jersey, a novice witch from a fantasy realm must now find a lost enchanted scepter that can restore her powers and get her home. Okay, so the thing with fantasy stuff in general is it's tricky. You kind of have three types of fantasy realms, right? There's flat out super fantasy, Harry Potter, right? 100%, right? It's totally witches and dragons and this and that or whatever, right? That's pure 100% fantasy. There's hidden fantasy, which is like a world like ours, but like Men in Black. There's also these aliens and there's a whole thing. So it's like hidden fantasy. It's kind of like, it's sort of like ours, but there's a whole secret. And then it's just ours. It's a version of ours, right? It's like, it could be like, no, werewolves are real, but they're just different in a way than we think. So it's almost like, it's almost like, like the Twilight series comes to mind, where it's kind of like a world like ours, but it's just there's werewolves in it. You know what I mean? So there's kind of three different ones. I think fantasy log lines tend to work best when you have that really clear. And so when I'm reading this log line already, after a botched spell strands her, so botched spell sounds like, okay, that's fantasy story. Strands her without magic in a small town New Jersey. Small town New Jersey feels real world, right? So now we're because it's not like in some sort of fictional world. That's one thing is that I would want that to be a little more clear in terms of which of those three lanes is it. I mean, it seems like you're in one of the first two. It's like a world like ours with a bit of a fantasy slant, or it's like it's a bit like this secret society. Tell me more about this fantasy realm. Like, so give me some more information about which of those lanes you have picked and why.
It's definitely the first one, because didn't want to make the log line too wordy because I came up with this thing called the 37th dimension, which is the dimension of magic. So total, fantasy world, totally separate from our world.
Mhm.
And this spell transports her from there to our world, this planet, this dimension. So I just, and see, going through that, I just felt like it was way too much to try and jam into a log line.
Yeah. So, yes. So you're saying it's more like Twilight model. So it's a world like ours, except that these types of people are witches as opposed to like, chemists or something like that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's the thing, is that the
Or
two
the
worlds
secretive?
the two worlds don't coexist. It's just this, it's a totally separate, I don't know, plane of existence is might be the best way to put it, where magic is an everyday thing.
Mhm.
I don't know how else to describe it, just because when it all opens, I go into this very brief but descriptive explanation of like where we are and try to establish the world, and that it's all all the magical kind of stuff you would expect, but it's just totally on its own. It's not part of this world at all.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like it sounds like it's kind of like that middle version that I talked about, where it's mostly like a world, but there's a whole secret other portal or secret aspect to it or hidden aspect to it.
Well, I guess that's where I'm trying to distinguish between the two, because like the way you described the first one's like that Harry Potter thing, which that's a world unto itself, but it's still part of this world. And this one is, I don't know how to differentiate it between the two. Like, we've got where we are and where they are, two totally separate, again, planes of existence. So I'm not really sure how to distinguish that.
Okay. So then that's a bump, right? That's a bump because it's a little, if it's more clear, like when you're talking about, let's say, Game of Thrones, it's clear it's full on fantasy. That's a trick with fantasy in general, right? Is like how we're gonna keep it clear. You want to keep it clear so that they get, because we're always looking for the same but different. It's like our world in this way, but not that way. And that's the beauty of fantasy, is that it feels familiar. Like with Star Wars, it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Or like, oh, okay, this is sort of like nothing like us. But then what really speaks to us is really it's this mythological story that feels very, very personal. So so let's go there with your story. So one thing that could help in terms of that, and that's the other thing too, is like, think about when we write scenes, we start with a slug line. Why? Because it anchors us to a sense of place and time. So I think yours might be even more sort of clear just to track. So I would say maybe I wonder if in a small, in a small town, New Jersey town. And when I'm throwing out ideas here, I'm not really saying like you should do it this way. I'm just really trying to illustrate the concept and show you opportunities for being able to help people track easier, because we can't get to the emotion and the power of a story if we don't get past that clarity bump first. It's got to be really clear and simple. In fantasy, the bar is really high because you're talking about a whole world that's different, and we need to succinctly say how it's similar and how it's different. So it's tricky. It's a really good puzzle. Okay. In a small New Jersey town, right? If we're gonna do the setting first, then what might you say next, Paul? She's a novice witch.
Well, that's the challenge, because I'm so used to doing the whole again, like the inciting incident. Like after this happens, your protagonist must do this to achieve their goal, or this is what's at stake. This is what's going to happen if they don't achieve their goal. So it's just trying to kind of work my way through this. In a small New Jersey town. And I almost want to keep with a novice witch.
Right.
We'll go, because I try to like put, I guess, like plug in the details. So novice witch, what's her flaw?
Her goal. What's her goal?
Her goal is to get home.
Must get home. Oh, she's got to get home back to her realm. Or must return to her home in another realm. Okay, so you can just stop there. See what happened. How now to me it's more clear, at least in terms of it's set in I know New Jersey's like a real world place, but a novice witch. Oh, that's there's some people that kind of identify as witch, but that's a little must return to her home in another realm. Now I'm clear, at least in terms of like place. So at least that part of it is cleaner. Not necessarily the log line you might want to run with, but like now we're getting some clarity. The other thing is that's really important because this is how far along are you in developing the story, Paul?
Oh, I'm already on the rewrite of the script.
So is this a sales log line or is this a development log line to tighten up the new rewrite?
It's a little of both. I mean, the story is pretty established, but I am trying to finesse the log line so that it's tighter because, like I told you in our emails, that I've been going through so many variations on this, and that for a long time it was about like there is another character who you could kind of call the antagonist, but I always go back to the Future's log line because, they don't talk about Biff or him having to get back to 1985. It's about he's got to get his parents to meet because that's like what's the emotional, what's the big important part of the story.
That's
and
right.
Those other things are just almost subplots. So I had to kind of take a couple of steps back and like, okay, what is this story about? It's interesting that they talked about the Wizard of Oz in the lead up to the groups, that because my pitch is that this is the Wizard of Oz in reverse, because it's this witch comes to our world.
Beautiful, dude. That awesome. When you're talking about that, you're talking about a cross, but that's really good in terms of a sales law line because we all know the Wizard of Oz. So that's a great what we call cross. It's the Wizard of Oz, in reverse. Really great because that's a great reference. So depending on how you're pitching it, so like in terms of the sales log line, that's a really great way to kind of very quickly, succinctly go, I get that. And so you might even say, in terms of like your sales log line, might be like that's like the cross part of it. You might even start with that. It's the Wizard of Oz in reverse. A young witch stuck in small town New Jersey must, something X to get to find her way home to her home realm, find her way back to her home realm. Now I'm feeling that. I don't know if anybody else is, but like those core elements. So Wizard of Oz in reverse, because it's like, I got to get home. Where's my home? Home is such a powerful concept. So a young witch stuck in small town New Jersey must, I guess find us what we can clarify what the actual goal is, but then ultimately it's sort of like the more technical goal to find her way back to her home realm. That sounds a little weird, but like, to me, that feels a little more primal. What does it feel like to you, Paul?
I think it works. I mean, I think because again, pitching it as a Wizard of Oz in reverse, as you said, everyone gets that because okay, it's the same story, but like a mirror version of that. Yeah, I think one of the key issues is that realm is such a nebulous word. Okay. That because I don't want to say her home world because it makes it sound like it's another planet, which it's not, and it's not that kind of story. But
well, what is it? What is it? Is it a different dimension? Is it different?
Yeah, it's the dimension of magic, and so that's why my initial logline I have fantasy realm because that's the best thing I could come up with.
Well, what is the dimension of magic? I don't.
It's just something it's just totally made up for the story. It's another world. It's another.
How do I get to this realm? How do I get there?
You're not really supposed to. It's just another dimension where magic is the prevalent force, I guess is the best way to put it. So imagine if like where Hogwarts is, if that was not in England, it was just this entire, it existed unto itself, totally separate from us. So like with like with that, yeah, there is a way to get from, you know, London to Hogwarts, but for this one, it's kind of like Oz. And there's really no specific way to get there. She gets taken from there to here totally by accident.
Okay. So yeah, like Oz, it's just like this magic realm that somehow coexists with our own. So
Right.
You know, as a sales log line, I think you're looking pretty good here. Like, you know, is wizard spell right? It's the Wizard of Oz in reverse. A young witch stuck in a small New Jersey town in a small New Jersey town must so you say she must find a lost enchanted scepter that can restore her powers. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I could try to give you like the thumbnail sketch of the story. So there's this scepter it's all powerful, and there's this bad wizard who wants it to take over the fantasy realm, and she steals it from him to get it away, but somehow it gets damaged, and she's trying to use it to get away from him because he's chasing her, and it inadvertently transports her from there to here. And so, but as part of that process, the magic that is in the scepter gets transferred to this guy and his dog. So she has to try and get the magic back in order to get the magic back into the scepter in order to get home. And so right now she's trying to, a part of it, you know, part of the conflict is that she is a novice. So all of this is, it's out of her control, over her head. And she's doing her damnedest to try and get things back under control. And so that's where a lot of the conflict in the story comes from.
I would say maybe like a novice, which actually is a nice.
Well, you know, a friend of mine suggested, he said, well, not everybody's going to know what novice means, which I take issue with, but he suggested a bungling witch in training.
Well, so bungling. So this is so now.
See, that's the thing is she's not clumsy. She's not like, oh, whoops. It's not like a slapstick type of thing. It's just like
that's what that word
suggests. She's still learning. So that's why I came up with novice.
Yeah, I like novice actually. So here's the thing. So we're gonna move on. The thing is, it's interesting because fantasy's tough because we spent all this time really kind of trying to even just get a sense of sort of how you clarify place. But I feel like as a sales logline, you're here, and in terms of just your development logline, this isn't, you know, if your development logline is for you to kind of keep things on track. And since you already know the worlds, then if this, after a botched spell strands her without magic in a small New Jersey town, a novice witch from the fantasy realm must now find her lost scepter and can restore her powers. I mean, I can see that now that my mind is understanding what those worlds are. I could see this being a decent development logline for you. You know, I mean, the key is here's how you know is it's just sort of like the parameters of a box. Like, is everything in your story that's significant? The most significant things are in this box. Is there anything that's really significant? You tell me right now, and then we'll move over to Susie. Is there anything that's pretty significant in your story that's not in that development log line that you already started with?
No, I think because I really wanted to focus on what's the main story, and for me, that's what it is.
So, I mean, that's a good measure, right? That's a good measure. That should keep you on track. Again, in terms of referencing it, I would then what we do in the sales log line, we went right to a reference. Oh, Wizard of Oz reverse, that makes sense. And then we just kind of touch on the main things. I would find a way here with X to kind of, when you've been talking about that, again, you want it to be succinct, but because you could say something like must find her scepter or something to find her way home. I mean, maybe, but like, I don't know. I feel like, but the last thing I'll say for you, and I think you're actually in pretty good shape here. And even the way that you were talking about it, well, how are we going to describe the hero, right? Is she bungling? Is she a novice? Is she young? You want to feel those things out and don't obsess over it. I remember off list, you're also like, hey, I've been doing this a million times. Like, just tinker a little bit, easy breezy, and then move forward. tinker, move forward. You keep tinkering the whole time. And then even with your sales log line, I have stuff that's sold that I still, well, after it's sold, I don't keep tinkering with it. But after it's out in the marketplace, I'll kind of go, yeah, and then I'll tinker with it a little more. I'll tinker with it. It's like, you just fill these things out. Don't get too freaked out about it. But I feel like you're a pretty experienced writer. And so I feel like your general elements are generally clear enough. I could see this being good enough for you to sort of have a pretty cohesive script. And even the way you're talking about it feels there's a cohesiveness to it.
Well, and I think Dallas made a great suggestion, apprentice switch. I mean, because I think that might even do it. That might even be a more solid word.
Great job,
I
Dallas.
apologize for taking up so much time with this.
No, that's good. No, look, that's what we're here. We're here to learn. Susie, let's go ahead and on the next page. An incorrigible drug dealing addict submits to authority in order to change her life, but almost dies in the process. An incorrigible. So let's start with. So when is a really helpful word to start with. When and then talking about inciting incident. But let's actually go with what you're saying. So you're talking about your hero is an incorrigible. What do you mean by incorrigible?
Tried time and time again and failed to change her life.
Okay.
Like every time she tries to change her life, something pushes her down, she gets back up and starts all over basically.
Incorrigible might be all right. An incorrigible drug addict submits to authority in order to change her life, but almost dies in the process. So her goal is, you tell me in your words what you would say her goal is.
To change her life. She wants a better life. She doesn't want to be.
To get clean?
Yeah, to get clean and to just have a legal life, a life of legality, not to be a criminal anymore.
To get clean and and law abiding, right?
Yeah.
And to go straight.
Yeah, there you go. Good, nice one, Paul. To get clean and
Go straight.
to go straight. Yeah, I like that. Well done, Paul. And what's the conflict? Why is this hard for your character?
Every time she tries to do it, something happens. It's just the drugs have
Something
like
happens.
control over her life. But so I have this, but then I also have the part where it could be betrays her boyfriend, who also happens to be her bounty hunter, and then goes to prison. I have like so many of them. That's why I had asked that question, because I don't know exactly.
Yeah, and that's the magic of log lines, right? Because we can't. The power of storytelling is when it's really simple and it's about one thing. And a lot of times what will happen is we've got too many things that we're like, oh, I like this and I like this and I like that. But the log line allows us to really focus on what's the most important of all the important things. So this drug addict, this drug dealing addict. So she's not only an addict herself, but she also is dealing to other people. That's pretty interesting layer. She wants to get clean and to go straight. But it's hard because
that's the only life she knows. If she does go clean and straight, she's going to be entering a world that she basically knows nothing about. Okay.
So she's, so she's in, we'll just kind of list some of the things you've been talking about. So conflicts we could speak to are, she only knows a world of crime, right? That's one part of it. Another part of her conflict is there's a chemical part of it. She's an addict. She's chemically dependent on getting a fix on drugs, right? What else? What are some other conflicts here?
She's burnt every bridge and betrayed every
betrayed relationships. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. What else? She doesn't have support, right? No support left. What else?
She comes to where she has to decide, should she go run, should she stay or should she go, basically. She actually comes to that crossroad when she's after being sent, she's in a cell, but the guard doesn't lock the door. So she has the opportunity to leave, but she stays because she really wants to change.
Okay, well, let's keep it focused on just the conflict. Any other conflict, like anything that makes it hard for her to go straight?
And she has to do this in prison.
She's got to do it from prison.
Mhm.
Well, why is that hard? I mean, if you're in prison, you kind of I would think in it would be this prison is the setting. So I mean, you can speak to that, breaking it down this way, right? The setting is prison. But what exactly in prison makes it harder? Is it that she's exposed to more drugs in prison, or they're not, you know?
Yeah, actually her prior term in prison, she had to do a shoe term, 9-month shoe term, because she got caught for selling drugs on the main yard. So it's hard because there's just as many crime and drugs there in
Okay.
prison. So it's entering
again,
a world where it would make it more difficult because it's someplace where you really want to numb it out.
In a world, in a hostile prison.
Can I ask, is there any corruption in the prison? Do the prison guards straight themselves, or are they involved in crime at all?
Oh, there's a few that are.
So corruption could be a source of conflict that they could be keeping her in the game.
In a hostile prison with corrupt guards, right?
Correct guards. And also there's a point when she gets sick, nobody believes her, and she almost dies, and then they do damage to her internal anatomy.
Okay.
Conflict. It's just hard to narrow it down.
So the opportunity for you, my friend, is what's the big one? What's the big dragon? Because we all, somebody in this situation has lots of dragons. And are you thinking this as a TV series or as a feature film?
Well, I wanted to do both, but obviously I have to do one before the other. So I wanted to kind of do the big picture as a feature film, and then do a series. That's what the producer.
You've written a few books on this topic that are actually published, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, okay, so one of the things I'm seeing for you in general is too many ideas, right? You're thinking TV show, you're thinking feature, you're thinking this conflict and that conflict and the other conflict, right? So when we do too many things, we can't focus on one thing that's going to actually move us forward. So my invitation to you, my friend, is keep going through my 9 steps of the book and just keep working it until you can go simple. Again, it's not set in stone, but like if you don't pick one, you're gonna get lost shuffling around the woods.
Yeah.
So at least for right now, just for instruction purposes, let's pick one goal, one conflict, right? So and let's call it a feature because that's a little simpler than kind of a sprawling series. So of all the stories and tales that you've told, what might be the one biggest one? Is it to start with her in prison and some big adventure that happens in prison? Is she on the outside and at some point she goes into prison? What, again, it's not set in stone, but just to kind of get the experience of saying one thing, what might that be?
It starts off where she's in a high-speed chase.
Oh,
and
good.
Then she gets caught by the bounty hunters. The bounty hunters are friends of the bail bondsman, who happens to be her boyfriend.
Okay.
She betrays him right there in the first page or two.
Well, so you you had me a high-speed chase, and then we got to get into some details. So high-speed chase is a great opener. So she has there's a high-speed chase, and then she's betraying somebody, and they rat her out, and she goes to prison.
Yep.
So it's really about the story of this. It's a drug dealing. And if anybody has ideas for Susie, throw them in the chat or throw them in the document. Just kind of sketch out different variations of that might be helpful for her. So a drug dealing addict, right, must get, when a like lifelong, right, because it's been a lifelong drug dealing addict gets thrown into jail, she must dig even deeper. That can get better. So she must, now we're back to that goal. So she must X to survive and serve to serve her term, right? To do her time, to get clean, do her time, and survive or something. I mean, that's not good, but at least it's something, right? So when a lifelong drug addict gets thrown into jail, and this is based on a true story, right?
Yes.
That gives it some heft. Based on a true story, when a lifelong drug addict gets thrown into jail is passive. Betrays a boyfriend, gets thrown into jail. She must, how does she get clean? How does she overcome those things to get clean, Susie? You tell me.
Well, she comes to kind of an epiphany when she gets sick. No one believes her. She's sent to the hospital and there for about 30 days. And then she's chained to the bed and they tell her, I'm sorry, we can't do anything more for you. You're going to die.
So that's conflict, right? The doctors say it's hopeless. What does she do in the face of that conflict that overcomes the tragedy? How does she?
She finally realized that she's human and that she can die, because prior to that, she thought she was invincible. Actually, never really thought about survival or any of that.
She must own her limitations, right? And power and true power, something like that, right? To get clean, do her time, without getting torn apart in the prison system, right? Something like that. It's not that great, but it's close enough. Okay. Based on a true story, when a lifelong drug dealing addict betrays a boyfriend, gets thrown into jail, she must own her limitations, find her true power, own her limitations, and find her true power to get clean, do her time. Yeah, it's kind of a mess, but you see where we're going here? We're really kind of focusing on one main story, and struggle to stay clean is nice, Dallas. I like that. Based on a true story, when a lifelong betrays a boyfriend, gets thrown into jail, she must own her limitations, find her true power to get clean, find her true power, own her limitations so she can get clean, do her time, and survive. and survive the, the jungle of the modern prison system. So because the thing that's great about your story is this is based on a true story. So you know what it's really like in there, which is really exciting and scary and fascinating to people, whether they've been in there or not, or know people in there or not. So I would lean into that, based on true story. Maybe even comment, based on a true story. When a lifelong drug dealing addict betrays a boyfriend and gets thrown into jail, she must own her limitations so she can get clean, do her time, and survive the jungle of the modern prison system. Woo! How's that sound?
Sounds pretty long, but sounds good. I mean, it sounds better than mine, and it's
Okay.
How about if we could survive the jungle of the corrupt prison system?
Oh, of the modern.
Instead of modern, put corrupt.
Corrupt. Modern is good because it's timely, right?
Okay.
Shawshank Redemption was old timey, right? But and Orange is the New Black is modern-ish, but whatever. But like, I think like you want like this is what it's really like. I would say the jungle of the modern corrupt prison system. I think that's pretty damn good. Any other thoughts, really quickly, before we wrap up?
I don't know if you need modern, because it's unless you specify that it's not modern, I think someone's going to assume that it takes place in the present.
Okay.
Like, because Shawshank, it's like, it's covers 50 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think if you just said survive the jungle of a corrupt prison system.
Okay. So
I agree.
So Susie had that thought. Paul seconded it. So I defer. I think you guys are right. Once you hear a note a couple times and it's a reasonable note, you defer. Okay. Awesome. Good job, guys.
I have a question.
Go.
Is the boyfriend a drug dealer?
No, the boyfriend is the bounty hunter.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay.
Do we need to put that in
Nope.
right here? Or should we take out betrays the boyfriend?
I actually, I don't know if you need it, because the whole, it's really, the story is about her. Because I was thinking that it's a lifelong drug dealing addict gets thrown into jail. And I think I heard you say this, Brooks, but I didn't see it on the screen. Someone said like struggles to survive the prison system and get straight so she can get her life back on track. That's really, to me, that's like the core of the story.
Yeah. Good. Man, that time went fast. It's funny. We're like the title of the workshop's like, oh, build a bang in 10 minutes. And you can do some significant stuff in 10 minutes, but it also takes time, right? We're exploring it. And but what's exciting about this to me, guys, is like every thought that came up saves you significant time. If you don't do this sort of thinking, you end up going out into the woods and wasting weeks, months, even years. So this sort of thinking in one sentence, bang, sharing it with people, and just keep it easy breezy. Work on this 5, 10, 15 minutes, in an email, send it to a couple writer friends, see what they think. If it fits for you to get like a consultant or a coach, get it to them. You're going to get higher level insights, and then just do enough. Just like what I was saying to Paul, you just do enough, then get in there, develop some stuff, then you tinker with it. You go back and forth, right? Murphy and Dallas, anything to add about either of these stories or these sessions? Or Murphy hasn't been involved in the story development programs, but Dallas has. What's anything you have to add, Dallas, in terms of like how we talk about log lines and concepts in the program, and how that was helpful for you, or anything?
I like both of these stories very much. They're so very different from each other. The drama inherent in both of them is wonderful, and the conflict. I think it just shows how difficult it is. It's how challenging it is to really narrow all your ideas that are going to go in your story into 1 or 2 sentences. It's worth really working on over and over and over again.
Yeah. And it's tricky. You can't do it alone, right? It's really tricky. So you need peers, you need help. You can, but it just takes you a lot longer if you're kind of messing with this stuff on your own. Awesome. Murphy, anything else to add for you?
Only to really second what Dallas said, really. Both of these stories have a strong core at them. So yeah, I think they'd be really good.
Cool. All right, great. Okay, guys. Now individually rate both of these log lines, Susie's story or Paul's story, and just put a number from 1 to 10. And I'll do a quick calculation. We'll see which one's going to represent us. And again, this is all for fun. Both these stories, I think, really are very promising in their own genre.
Very uncomfortable voting for myself, so I'm just going to rank Susie's.
No, no, that's fine. No, you can do it. That's fine. Be honest. Look, this is all. It's all just for fun. Susie, I don't see your votes yet.
Oh,
Put them in the chat. Yeah, Murphy. I realize you got to take off. Take off, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for coming, buddy.
Thank you for your help.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Hi, Murphy.
Yeah, these are really strong ideas. You know, they're both solid. There's real serious conflict in both of them. So either one could absolutely represent our group.
basically, I just wrote the other one, not mine yet.
Okay. You're voting for. Okay, look. Well, then, if that's your thing, then we'll have Paul's represent us. That's very gracious of you, Susie. Paul's yours is going to be the representative of our group. Great job.
The development one or the sales one?
Do the sales one for you.
Okay.
Because development one I think is pretty good for you. I think you're
Sure.
in a good place. But the sales one I think is going to be more punchy and better for other people to relate, to see the spirit of your concept and the yeah. For those who don't know, Paul runs a really wonderful blog where he interviews all sorts of consultants. That's how I met him. He's amazing and is really helpful. Hello, everybody. Hello. Woo. You know, I was joking with my own group. I was like, with the title of the thing is like 10 minutes. And like, you can do a lot in 10 minutes, but like, man, that time goes so quickly. So, I mean, we only had 2 stories to work on, and we didn't get to any of the alumni, but we had a lot of fun. 2 really great stories. Okay.
Hi, quick question. We tried to do 4 in the allotted time and we didn't get to Heather. So I'm willing to give her time, but I don't want to mess everybody up. So what do you recommend?
Great. That's awesome. So, Heather is an alumni of the group. So anybody who's an alumni isn't eligible to the contest anyway. So that's no problem at all. Thank you very much for offering. Yeah. You guys just connect online, offline by email.
Yeah.
That would be perfect. I really appreciate that. Good. How'd it go? You guys have fun? So Howard, tell me about your group. What were some takeaways?
Okay, I thought it was awesome. I think, I would love to hear what everybody else thought were the takeaways. So yeah, we had great stories, in our chat room. And I think that it was, instructional to me as well. I think that a really good structure for a log line is the when inciting incident, character has to conflict in order to achieve goal. If your story, if a different structure works for your story, then go with that. But that's a really good one to at least get you started. It's kind of like everybody had all the elements, but if you plug the pieces, identify the pieces, and then plug them into that structure, we ended up, I think, with some pretty good log lines.
Awesome. Great job. Anybody in Howard's group want to share an insight or a thought about how things went? Abhishan.
Yeah, so it was great. It was fun. It was just like interesting of getting other people's perspectives on how they create their own ideas, but also how they understand our own, like my ideas or their own ideas. So like the feedback that I get from Howard or the feedback that I get from Brendan or Susan or Cynthia, it's like, oh, that's how they see it. They have a different perspective. And so it reinforces like this idea in my head that other people do think in different ways. And instead of me as this writer that think in my own way, I got to step out of my own box and understand other people's perspective a little bit more. So it was a reminder.
I love that. I mean, guys, the game we're talking about is mass scale storytelling. We're trying to tell a story to tens of thousands of people and get paid very significant amount of money for this. It's a really big scale game. It's an audacious game. It's a wonderful game, right? And how do you possibly play that game without having real clarity on these core story elements? And even when you kind of get through, you need, it makes a huge difference to have really good, dedicated fellow storytellers there to bang the ideas against, and then have some sort of mentor to go, look, probably more of this, less of that. So great comment. It really is. It's a fun game. And like, it makes a difference when you can spend more time focusing on these core elements. Okay. Jordan, tell me about your group. How did things go? Any big insights?
It went great. some of the stories that were being told that didn't have a log line yet. So we were building from scratch for a couple of them, which was challenging in the time that we had. And yeah, we found that when the inciting incident happens, formula worked for all three of ours that we focused on. Maureen, unfortunately, as our ringer, didn't get a chance to kind of work hers through. But that structure worked best for us as well. And it was kind of fun for us to, as a group, start weeding through all of the ingredients of some of these stories and pulling out the most powerful elements and then rearranging those into the log lines that we presented to the group. So yeah, it was fun.
Awesome. I love it. Mike, Jann, how about your group? Any takeaways, thoughts?
Yeah, it was really fun. It was very fun seeing the ideas, good ideas, and it's always interesting to me that we writers can be in the woods and not see the forest for the trees. Like we're so close to a good idea, but we just got it in our head that it's about an oak tree, and it really it's that thing over there. So I hope you guys liked it as much as I did. I found it very fun, and I hope you appreciate how many times you're going to rewrite your own log line and how you should have it scotch taped. I've one scotch taped to my wall over there to remind me of the frickin' roadmap, you know?
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, just one thing that I, forgot to mention in my chat room. It's don't, as you're writing your script, you're going to make discoveries. So your log line can change. Don't be like rigidly obsessed with your log line. It's really helpful in getting you started, on the path to writing your script, but you're going to make discoveries along the way. So be open to changing it because it's going to improve.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, in the last script that I wrote that's now set up, I was tinkering with that log line the whole time. And then when it was basically done, I had the sales log line, and I probably wrote, 3, 4, 5 variations of that too. I mean, it's really the process of tinkering with it. That's the real value for us guys. It's not this thing that's concrete set in stone. It's like, these are where I think the parameters of the box are, what belongs in the box, what doesn't belong in the box. And the game of playing that is where we clarify our story. And then we're better able to tell a story that we believe will be impactful for tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands, or whatever the number is. It's a lot of people when you're talking about professional storytelling. Awesome. Okay. So an update on my group. I loved my group. It was tricky because we started with Paul's log line, which is in the fantasy genre, which might be the most difficult to write log lines for, because this fantasy element it's really difficult to succinctly clarify how much fantasy, how much real world it is. So a lot of the stuff was just talking about kind of getting my mind around what he was doing, but he's already written the script, and he's several drafts into the script. Really powerful idea, and we're able to kind of help him with a pretty punchy sales log line, a version of it that we kind of put in to the contest. But it was, I thought, really powerful, primal, really strong idea, almost a spin on in some ways on Wizard of Oz. And then Susie's logline was really powerful too. Totally different genre. It was grounded, gritty addiction story in jail. But what was fascinating to me is that, and hers is sort of, she's written several books, and she's looking to adapt it. But and with hers, it was sort of like she had too many good ideas, and it was like, which are the best of the best ideas? And that's the whole value of doing it in one sentence. It's like, okay, yes, I've got lots of ideas, but which are the core ideas, right? So those were my takeaways. Anybody in my group want to share thoughts about any different takeaways you got, or insights, or?
Well, I think what really helped in Brooks's group was that we really kind of broke it down, each log line down into its core elements. Like, okay, and this, I mean, a lot of people, they'll chart it this way. So here's your protagonist, and he was even writing this out. So, okay, who's your protagonist? What's their flaw? What do they have to overcome? And then there was also like, what are some of the obstacles that they have to overcome? And so we use this a lot more for Susie's log line than for mine, but also because she had so much stuff to go through that we had to kind of like start narrowing it down. Like, what are the core elements of the story that you want to put into the log line? And I think that really helped to I guess, fine tune it, really pinpoint what the core of her story was. And I think that was the most effective part of, that's what I got out of being in the group.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, good. Anybody else want to share thought? Or you guys good? Lillian, what do you got?
Well, Michael was talking about the like the virtue and the vice concept. I thought that was really good. It's like the virtue and the vice are fighting each other. Maybe Howard said that earlier. I can't remember, but somewhere, that was helpful. Maybe Michael can say it more better than I did.
Well, I tell you a quick thing. When I'm writing a screenplay, I picture, and I don't recommend you getting a forehead tattoo. It's not a good look in job interviews, especially, but I'll picture the character having the vice tattooed on their forehead and the other character having the word, the virtue tattooed on their forehead. So an example I give in that, when I talk about Wedding Crashers, usually Owen Wilson is the liar, the dishonest or insincere, whatever it is, let's say dishonest, right? And Claire is Rachel McAdams. She would have the word sincere. But there's a scene in the movie where they're first flirting with each other and they flip tattoos, where she's about to give the speech at the wedding. And her idea is to make these jokes, just cynical jokes that are not honest and genuine. And Owen Wilson really hits it off with her by having the word honesty on his forehead. And he says, I really think you should go with honesty in a toast. I'm telling you. And he's right. Her toast bombs and she looks over at him and then she gives a virtuous thing and he smiles and she smiles. Yay, there are a couple now. Oh, here comes Bradley Cooper to fuck it up. But in every scene, it's two forehead tattoos fighting it out.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. So yeah, anybody who was voted as the highest rated story, you can put that story in your in the chat. I'm going to really quickly show you guys some options about what it's like to work with mentors in my particular program. But like, this isn't the idea of this workshop was really to guys give you value today in terms of how it works. And because it's challenging, even when you're really good at this and you've done it for a while, it takes time and it has, and you need other people's, you just got to see how stuff is landing. So you really want to have a really good feedback loop. One of them, one option is my own program with these coaches. And I'm really excited about it. So I'll tell you about it. But again, I don't want this to feel like a sales pitch. I just wanted to let you know this is an option. And there's lots of them. So go out there, shop around, find the best feedback loop for you at the right price point for you, and get your dream fulfilled in the absolute best way possible for you. What I figured was, I was like, how can I be most helpful to other writers? It's like, I've done this for a while. I love helping other writers. I love writing it myself. And I realized if I worked with people for 5 months, I could make a huge difference. So I started this program. But mentors, we've seen them in all these different movies. You've got, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mr. Miyagi, and then, Rocky had Mick, and then he got older, and then he became, a mentor to Creed's, what's his son. But like, a mentor is just somebody that's been there a couple steps ahead of us, right? And they can go, oh, watch out for this, watch out for that. And it just speeds up the entire process. The people that are most successful in the business, from my perspective, they have a sense of their superpower. They're able to have access to the industry in terms of really, it's not. People have the sense of nepotism, but it's not really that, because even if you're born into some sort of family, you still have to prove yourself. So you have to be able to build relationships in the industry, have a sense of how to do that. There's shortcuts, but like you have to be able to show up and be a fascinating person in the business. And there's technique and there's craft to that. And then of course you need a plan. You need clear goals. You need to be able to say, here's my plan. It's very clear, step by step. And then am I actually doing the plan or not? There's an accountability part of it. And if you look at those three ideas where they overlap, that's the absolute best writer you can be. And if you have a coach in your corner helping you stay focused on that, that's really the best opportunity for success I've ever seen. One thing when I was first starting out and I would see like, Bob McKee or Blake Snyder, I'd be like, well, those guys I haven't seen any movies that those guys have written. What's going on? But like, there's a whole thing that happens in Hollywood. You can actually get paid a lot of money for selling a script, but it doesn't actually get made. So I have a few things that I think will be made next year. But in the interim, you can look me up and look at the people that I've worked with who have made lots of stuff that you have heard of. So in terms of that credibility thing, but the truth is, guys, it's really, credibility is not that important. What really, because you could have somebody who's like your cousin or anybody who's got no experience, but if they can help you unleash your vision, that's really what matters. So you want somebody to knows what they're talking about, and credibility can help, but it's really not that important. What's really important is you. And you getting your vision completely unleashed. So for my particular program, the people that I look for, they've got proven skills. I often like working with people who are already accomplished in some other creative field, and I show them how to connect dots in our program. It's not for beginners. If you're brand new, you can look at my book, you can look at my videos. There's other ways I can help, but like this program is for people who are like really ready to hit that professional level and stay professional for life. You have to be able to put in the time, but it's part-time, guys. A lot of people are like, well, I've got a job, everybody's got jobs, but writing screenplays is really part-time work unless you're on a deadline or something. But 5 to 10 hours per week of focusing is generally enough to significantly progress your screenwriting career. You got to be able to play well with others, right? This is not for divas. It's not for drama. It's people who are just focused and really, big heart, collaborative, team players. Those are the people that get in my program. If I don't feel like that, if I feel like there's drama, if you put the drama in your life and not on the page, it's not a good match for you. This is a community that's very tight knit and very collaborative and supportive. You also have to be ready to go deep. If you're going to tell stories to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, you have to be able to go into a deep place in yourself and be willing to do that. One of the things when you're working with me and these other coaches is we guide you into those deep places so you get more comfortable and so you can make choices from those deep places. Very hard to do on your own without a really good mentor or good way of getting yourself into those deep places and thinking clearly when you're in those deep places. And of course, I have to kind of like you, in a sense, like you, and like I like all writers, and I'm sending good energy to them. But like I have to feel like if I'm specifically going to be mentoring you, or if you even get into my whole community, we have to have rapport. I have to feel like, yeah, this is somebody I want to spend a lot of time with. Or if you're going to work with one of my other coaches that like on the group calls, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that person. It's like they have to be. There's got to be a lot of character there. That's significant. So when I do let people in, I don't let people in unless I feel like they're going to get a significant return on their investment. So everybody, very specifically, if like within 2 years, if you're not making your money back, it's like, I'm not going to let somebody in the program unless I feel like they're going to hit that. I'm confident in their talents and they're able to connect. I'm going to help them connect these dots and they're going to make a significant advance in the career in like 2 years. And I'm thinking everybody in my program within 5 years should be like 5Xing whatever they spend on this program. So there's a ton of benefit in terms of just experience, contacts, all that stuff. But like even on the financial side, I want you making your money back. And those are the timelines I see it. And if I don't feel like you can hit those things, that's another reason why you might not get into the program. And when you guys succeed, we succeed, and we're all in it together. Specifically, how the support works is there's coaching calls, one-on-one, usually every week. Sometimes it'll be even more than one a week. It's like between 4 and 6 per month. You get that for 5 months, and you get so just when we're banging around these log lines today, you get that experience with this experienced coach, me or the other coaches, and it makes a big difference when you have an experienced person there. So you get that one-to-one in-depth report from professional writers guiding you step by step and keeping you focused on what matters and keeping you to dismiss the stuff that doesn't matter. You get that for 5 months. It really is a game changer. You get group calls, 6 group calls for life. So we do 6 group calls, and we make sure that at least 3 of them are convenient for whatever time zone you are all over the world. Because there's synchronistic learning that happens when we do these group calls, which are basically Q&A driven. So whatever is the most burning issue for you, for anybody that's in the group, we talk about that. It's usually craft, career, or mindset. And then you go, oh, I was dealing with that same thing too. And that person's, so you get that sort of group call experience, 6 per month, and you get that for life. You get an accountability partner for life. So after you and your coach are intensely connected for 5 months, I then partner up you with somebody that you really like in the group, and you guys hit it off, and that can go for life. And again, because you need a feedback loop. You need people to help you show up and actually do the writing. Because your doubts are going to come up, life is going to come up, and you need support. So this is a lifelong support system. There's an online discussion group where you talk shop all the time. And then you have all my contacts. Like, I want you guys to succeed amazingly. So every producer I've worked with, anything, if you have a script that I feel like, oh, I know a producer who's looking for that sort of thing, I'm making that introduction and I'm thrilled to do it. So all my contacts for all my life are here, are yours. If I feel like those dots will connect. And so it's not just sounds nice. It's like we're getting real world results for people. I've worked with somebody that got to the top 5, that won a nickel fellowship, $35,000. That's top 5 of 7,200 scripts, right? 2 of our writers have gotten representation, 1 from my own manager. Like everybody gets producer meetings, like everybody. If you've been in the program for a while, you will get producer meetings, right? There's just ways that I do it, that I show you either personal recommendations or to show you how to build them. You will get producer meetings. That's a lock. Paid writing assignments. A bunch of people are getting them. There's writers that get paid writing assignments in this program like month 2. You know what I mean? And other paid gigs, because I want you making money from every which way. One interesting thing that happens is when you start showing up in this way, you just start thinking about life differently, because in order for you to be the best storyteller you can be, best screenwriter, you have to be good at life in general and be aware of your life lessons. So as I make you more aware of how much wisdom you have in your life, your other parts of your life, you become a better screenwriter, but other parts of your life get better too. And you end up seeing opportunities to make money in different ways that you didn't even realize. So that's pretty cool. And what quickly happens is you get an abundant schedule of so many good things happening, you're actually turning away. I would say probably a third or half of the people in my group very quickly get to the point where they're actually turning away opportunities because they're now focused on the best of the best stuff for them. And it's a mindset thing. And when you get around people that are all focused in this way, you go from like, nobody pays attention to me in Hollywood to like, okay, I can't do that. I can't do that. Because people are like, I want abundance, but you get abundance and like, oh, now I got to prioritize what's the best of the best of the best. So that's what happens in this group. If any of that sounds good to you, you can apply on my website. It's brookselmscoaching.com, or it might be brookselms-coaching.com. You can just search me Brooks Elms. It'll pop up. It's a really easy application. Yeah, I know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it goes through, totally free. I get maybe 100 people applying, and there will be about 20 openings. I generally mentor about 4 or 5 at a time, usually two groups of that per year. So I do about 10. My other coaches, they do 1 or 2 themselves, spanning, depending on what their schedules are. So if I'm full, then if I already have the writers that I'm working with, then I go, you know what, maybe you should check out Jordan or Howard or Mike. And then if you guys have a conversation with them, great. Then you do the one-on-one sessions with that coach, and then you're in the whole community under my umbrella. And everybody that applies gets some sort of support. It's like if you're reaching out to me, you like my vibe, I will try to help you in what again. I'll send you free resources. I'll send you a link to videos. Or if I feel like you're a real match, awesome. We set up a phone call. We have a conversation. If I have an opening, we talk about that as a possibility. If I feel like you're a really good match, or I introduce you to one of the other guys, or again, whatever budget. There's flexible payment plans for whatever budget you're on, and I'm here to help people. And some people are the right match for my program, and if I know lots of other consultants, so even if you're not the right match for me, I'll send you someplace else. I want you to really thrive, whether it's with us or someplace else. Designed to be the most helpful program really on the planet to get you from like talented amateur to legit, consistent professional screenwriter. One thing I invite you to think about is, how do you feel about this contest? Are you scared? Do you feel like if you win this contest, it means something? Where we stack up in the industry is really important in some ways, but it's even more important that we see that as secondary to like our soul and who we are. We are human beings that are here to do wonderful things. One of the things everybody that's listening to this is about is the joy of telling stories, and maybe even telling stories at great scales. So I want that to be first and foremost. And whenever you're in some sort of contest, like this mini contest that we're doing here, or a screenplay contest or whatever, I want you guys to not take that too seriously. They're just data points. It's just fun. Whether you win, it's cool. If you you weren't a winner today, that's cool. It's really important that you keep all that stuff in perspective, and you just enjoy the journey. And the paradox is, the more in the flow of the journey that you are, and just emotionally differentiated from actually winning this thing or not, the faster you actually cross milestones and win more contests and things. Does that make sense? This is a really good topic, because one of the things that comes up, there's three main challenges we all have as screenwriters, right? One is making sure that we are first able to write at the professional level, and then we can maintain that level, because sometimes you'll actually get there and then your skills will atrophy a little bit. So you got to keep the skills sharp, right? So that's A, write at the professional level. B, once you have a piece of material, how do you get Hollywood to pay attention to you, right? That there's a whole set of tactics and skills around outreach, making sure you can build relationships, the right relationships at the right time to be able to get your stuff set up. And then 3, how do you make money along the way? Right? Because you got to pay your bills, and you can make a lot of money in this business, but those deals go slowly. I got a writing assignment right now that's a significant amount of money, but it's taken 9 months to actually get through the contract negotiations. Lawyers just take a long time, right? And that's a little longer. Usually they're like 5 months or so, but like I haven't had anything shorter than 5 months. So these things take time, right? So you want to be smart about how you either stack up. Once you get to the professional level, you have a stack of projects, if that's what's most delightful for you, or you have different income sources. So you write screenplays and you do this. We have somebody in our group who's her day job is NASA. Really awesome, right? So even when she sells a screenplay or get on some show, I think her best life is screenwriting and like NASA consultant, or it's actually living on an island in the middle of the Pacific. It's really amazing. So I'm here for you to help you get your best life. And part of that is going to be professional screenwriter, and it might be nothing but professional screenwriting, or it might be screenwriting and coaching like I do, and like these other coaches in my program do, or it might be, you run a family business and you screenwrite, or it might just be whatever you want. Like, I'm here to help you get your best life. So those 3 main questions, how do you write at the professional level? How do you get your script paid attention to, and how do you pay your bills along the way? That's what we focus on in the giant program. But I do separate programs for just the outreach part, and then just the making money along the way.
I just have a question about the program, actually. So
yeah.
I know you said that like you said at one point, it's not the program is not for beginners. And out of curiosity, how do you like measure yourself out in your writing skill to know that you're good for this program, or like if you're still a beginner, or there's still certain milestones you need to achieve in order to get to that level where you can be appropriate or ready for the program?
It's a great question. And so, and there's kind of 2 different categories, right? There's some people that'll join the program that will have already written several scripts. Some people, there's even been people who are already in the WGA that joined the program. Or there's one guy who's got 3 million followers online from his online content. He's in the program. Another woman has written 40 novels, right? But what's interesting is the woman who wrote the 40 novels was still struggling with her first screenplay, because the formats are slightly different. So a lot of times it's people who have transferable skills. They're technically new to screenwriting, but they're really accomplished in some other field. if in terms of like, if you're like writing, if you haven't really done something creatively, professionally in any sort of thing, if you're, let's say 18 years old and you're sort of writing your first script, then it's probably too new for you to be able to get value, because this is like legit professional screenwriting program. So if you're not sure, just reach out and we can have a conversation, or put that on your list. And then what'll happen is, worst case scenario is you apply and I go, oh, you know what? Seems like you're probably a little too early on in the journey. Check out this video. Here's this resource, get this, get that, get the other thing. And then you will start getting close. And then maybe you come back to us in 6 months or a year or whatever. So like, if you like our vibe, if you see this workshop and you're like, man, I could see myself having so much success, such a streamlined path to my own path to be a professional by working in a community like this with these types of coaches, come in, reach out. We're fun to talk to and accessible. And I will say, oh yeah, this actually, I think you can get tremendous value because of X, Y, and Z, or you're probably a little too early on. In particular, I would say, to more sort of summarize, if you're a professional writer or creative in something else, writing your first screenplay, that's probably a decent match. Or if your main thing is screenwriting and you've written at least, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 3, then you might be a good match. But like I said, even very experienced people join, because we need to keep the tools sharp, and you need to be able to get feedback. You need to figure out how your ideas are landing. And it's just fun to be around other people that are 1,000% devoted to the craft in the way people are in this group. So yeah, I'll say one more thing about technology, right? It's like, it's a really significant part of our business, guys. And I hope that you see that, like, there's, this isn't a seamless experience here, right? It wasn't like smooth. There's nothing I do that's really all that clean. I'm a very sort of casual kind of ragtag type style, in the way that I do things, because that's what I like, and because it keeps me focused on what really matters, which is the sort of the emotional impact of the ideas and the quality of the people that I attract. And so, and what I want the takeaway to be is when we had these sort of technology wrinkles, I didn't freak out. I just was like, let's solve it. Let's get the work. And the reason I bring that up is, mostly on your outreach side, you guys will be hitting these technology bumps all the time. I don't like social media. I don't like this. I'm telling you guys, it's part of our job as professional screenwriters to get comfortable with technology. You will be on meetings with big, with very important people who might want to buy your script, and you're on a Zoom call or whatever, and all of a sudden your audio is going to go out or something's going to go wrong. You want to be very cool under pressure and good with the fact that technology is amazing and works 90% of the time, and then 10% it goes kaflooey. When it goes kaflooey, you want to be just cool and be like, whatever, we'll figure it out. There's always a workaround, right? So that casual quality of my program is to me intentional. I don't freak out about it. It's not even that important. What really matters is the relationships, the ideas, and showing up and just being cool through the whole process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just have another question. I hope I'm not like taking up too much time.
Perfect.
But out of curiosity, you're talking about technology and social media, right? Like I'm very aware of, like, TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff like that. And I heard you talk about outreach and how to use social media to your advantage. Is it a smart thing to do to like get onto these platforms, especially TikTok and Instagram, and create content, whether you're a screenwriter or a filmmaker, and try to build up a platform? Or is it like better to go on like something like Twitter or LinkedIn, or like how would you go about that in terms of social media?
Another spectacular question. And like I said, with those 3 main sort of really problems we all have when we on the path to being professional, writing at the professional level. The second one is getting people to pay attention to our work once we are writing at the professional level. That I have a whole program that's separate for that called Unleash Your Superpower. It's relaunching very soon, and we're going to be specifically talking about how you deal with social media. The amazing thing, guys, about social media is it's basically an ongoing cocktail party in Hollywood where they're waving you in. Hey, come have a good conversation with me about whatever they're posting on. All these producers that you want to do business, you want to buy your script, either them or their assistant or somebody is online, and you have access to them directly. You just need to walk right up and join their conversation in a way that doesn't make you look like you're crazy town. You don't go up there and you don't say, read my script or annoy them. You see what they're already talking about. And what they're talking about is what they just posted about. It might be a sports team. It might, if it's politics, stay away from it, right? Because that's, but like if it's any sort of, it could be story stuff, it could be, a charity or whatever. If and only if you have a genuine sort of interest in that conversation, you just engage with them as a human being. And you think long term. You're not trying to sell your script to those people today. You're slowly from real joy and like, I love movies. This person's worked on movies and shows that I love. Let's see if something happens as a kindred spirit. You just get into a genuine conversation for long term. For like maybe this blossoms into something next month or next year or whatever. So you want to think long term, only engage when you're genuinely interested, be a human being. But that's the opportunity we have with social media. So get in there, show up, have those conversations for the sheer fun of it. If it's not fun for you to have that conversation, don't do it. And you talked about, well, TikTok or Twitter or this or that. Pick one that you like. And if you don't like it, don't do any of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's really important that it comes from your heart.
Yeah, exactly. So like just adding another question. So you would say it's more about conversations than just overall.
100%. You if you're not doing conversations, you become noise. Don't be noise, be a human being. And if you show up as a real human being and a real kindred spirit, you will stick out, because most of the screenwriters are like hammering them and doing cold queries, which are total noise. So that's a whole part of like, if you get involved in the whole big sort of 5-month one-to-one program, I don't just like teach you how to write a script and that's it. There's that's included. I show you basically how to build relationships. And if you do the system that I show you in your own way, you will get stuff set up. It's a matter of finding your voice in social media. And it's so crucial because when you start building a following, you get to dance with your audience. These are your people. You get to do content that they respond to, and you just get to practice being content creators for your people. It's good practice for you. You actually get a legit audience that grows. And it's good in every facet of it, really, as long as it's coming from a place of real joy. And that's tricky because people have all sorts of hangups about these things, right? Paul, what do you got for us?
It really was just to emphasize to the things that you were talking about, because really, when you're trying to break in as a writer, you are a one-person marketing department, that it's really up to you to get word about you. Even if you have a manager or an agent, because I've heard this so many times that, okay, I got a manager, I'm set, I don't have to do anything else. No, you have to do even more now, because they have other clients that they have to deal with. So you got to really keep on the ball and keep hustling to try and get things happening for you. And what we were saying, Brooks, about social media, that's how I made a lot of the connections I have within screenwriting Twitter. That's my platform of choice. And it really is, treat it like a cocktail party, because you don't want someone who would come up to you and say, hi, you don't know me, but I want you to help me. And like, if you've never interacted with them at all before, you're going to tell them to get lost, because, why would you want to deal with somebody like that? So it's like Brooks said, you want to engage, you want to establish a professional relationship, and you're not trying to be their best friend, but you're just trying to engage with them, and that, you have a couple of things in common, or, hey, I really like that movie you worked on, or I like that TV show you worked on. And, just slowly build the relationship. Don't try to force it. Just make it very casual, but very, again, enjoyable, that, if you're coming across as creepy, they're going to pick it up, and they're going to really just kind of like try to distance themselves from you. So it's really about, be nice to people and treat them the way you would want them to treat you as well.
It's great. Yeah, it's simple. And, like back in the 80s, you could kind of roll into Hollywood, and it was a smaller town, and show up at the restaurants and wherever, and kind of get to know each other that way. And now it's like, you don't even have to be in LA to do that. Literally, social media is the new small town. There are all these different town squares. So anyways, I think we might be ready to reveal the winner. Jordan, do you have the votes or the numbers in?
Yes,
okay,
we do.
All right, let's just go. There's those reality shows that are like, okay, third place, second place, whatever. But let's just go. But here, I do want to make one quick point. the reason those reality shows do that is because it milks tension right at the end. And so it's a storytelling device. When we're like, oh, am I going to win the money? Am I not going to win it? It's exciting and you kind of milk it out. But I always feel like it's kind of a, I like reality shows, but like it's kind of a ham-handed way to milk it. All right. Anyway, so Jordan, just tell us who won.
It was pretty close, but Brent's Candyman concept seems to have inspired more people than the others.
Yay! Well done, Brent. Congrats. So, excellent. So reach out to me by email, Brent. I'll make sure you get your $300. And congrats to everybody. I mean, again, the whole idea is that's really fun. Good for Brent, but good for everybody for being a part of it. You got to be in it to win it. Oh, Abishan, what do you got?
I'm so sorry. I just this question has been on my mind a lot recently since I watched this documentary on Pixar, and I think it kind of relates to like log lines and screenplays. So at Pixar, they say how like you can't be afraid of how much your story changes. And so like my question is like where do you get to a point where like, okay, I know your story changes, but how do you know if those changes are not damaging to the log line or to the core of the story or the core of the log line?
So I love that question. And it's a great one to end on, is you have to listen to your voice, and you need a really good feedback loop. You need to, and that's the art of it. You need to say, I've got this vision. I think this is the core idea. And that's why having a really beautiful, powerful, supportive feedback loop and system is going to maximize your chances of being most true to your vision. If you're out there in the woods trying to figure it out on your own, or just talking to your cousin who kind of like doesn't write but like likes movies, good luck. I mean, you're talking about a severely, incredibly competitive business. To get into the Writers Guild, you have a better chance of playing Major League Baseball statistically than getting into the Writers Guild. We're not effing around here. This is extreme competition. So put yourself in the best position possible to optimize your chances. Get world-class support. My program, a different program, your own thing, whatever works for your budget, but get that support, get that feedback, so that when you get an impulse for an idea, you can see how it lands and you can go, yeah, that's great. And that to me is worthy of an idea that can tell a story to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people.